What if Bitcoin existed in 1945? What if Bitcoin had existed in 1945? As the dust settled after the Second World War and the world prepared to rebuild from its ashes, what if a digital, decentralized money had quietly emerged in the background? Would history have unfolded the same way? This is not just a what if story. It's a look at the turning point that shaped the modern world and how one small change, Bitcoin's existence, could have rewritten everything. Money, war, power, freedom. To understand this alternate future, we first need to understand what actually happened in July of 1944. The outcome? The US dollar became the world's reserve currency, backed by gold. All other currencies were pegged to it. It was the birth of the fiat empire, built on trust and eventually on illusion. But imagine this. Satoshi Nakamoto doesn't wait until 2009. He or she or they launched Bitcoin in secret, in the shadows of World War II, using wartime cryptography breakthroughs and early computing power. The first blockchain block is mined, while troops still return home from battle and generals discuss a new world order. A new form of money is quietly born, one with no borders, no central authority, no banks. Early adopters? They wouldn't be tech bros or libertarians. They'd be rebels, mathematicians, code breakers from Bletchley Park, people who deeply understood the power of encryption and the danger of centralized control. At first, no one pays attention. World leaders are too busy redrawing maps, but a few economists notice something strange. A peer-to-peer network quietly transferring value, without gold, without trust, without permission. Now imagine, in 1947, the Marshall Plan begins. The US sends billions to rebuild Europe. But what if some countries demand payment in Bitcoin instead of dollars? This would terrify Washington, because suddenly the dollar's supremacy is under threat from a currency the US can't control and can't inflate. By 1950, Bitcoin spreads through black markets, rebuilding economies, helping war-torn populations bypass corrupt banks. Underground coders print QR codes on ration cards. Encrypted wallets pass from hand to hand. The Cold War begins, but now it's not just nuclear war that's feared. It's monetary war. The Soviets try to crack the Bitcoin protocol. The CIA tries to infiltrate early mining pools. We enter a parallel arms race, not just for weapons, but for hash rate. Countries build massive early data centers, not for Facebook, but for mining. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens start to understand the power of Bitcoin. For the first time, they can store value without trusting a central bank, without needing permission. The 1950s and 60s look different now. The US tries to maintain dollar dominance, but citizens in Argentina, France, and Italy begin opting out. They save in Bitcoin instead. Slowly, confidence in fiat erodes. When President Nixon prepares to close the gold window in 1971, he faces a world that already has a plan B. He's not cutting off the world's last tether to sound money. He's declaring war on Bitcoin. Governments respond with bans, crackdowns, propaganda, calling Bitcoin a tool for criminals, an economic threat, a cyber virus. But the more they fight it, the stronger it becomes. Just like in our timeline, Bitcoin adapts, migrates, hardens. By the 1980s, we're not watching Wall Street pump the Dow. We're watching nations quietly stockpile Bitcoin, using cold storage instead of gold reserves. Hyperinflation hits Latin America, but now people have an escape hatch. Bitcoin becomes their safety net, and they never forget it. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, it's not just about political freedom, it's about economic sovereignty. East Berliners don't just cross into the West, they log in and transact freely. The 1990s internet boom accelerates Bitcoin adoption. Online marketplaces use BTC by default. Developers build privacy tools into the base layer early on. Satoshi's vision evolves into a global movement. Without central banks inflating assets, housing bubbles never reach critical mass. Debt culture doesn't define entire generations. There's pain, yes, but fewer lies. 9/11 still happens, but the financial response looks different. No mass money printing, no zero interest rates, because Bitcoin doesn't respond to politics. In this alternate history, 2008 doesn't need Satoshi to fix a broken system, because the fix was already in place in 1945. But here's the twist. This timeline might not be better. It might just be different. What happens to the US if it never holds reserve currency status? Does it still become a superpower? Does it still win the Cold War? Or does a multipolar world emerge sooner? Does China adopt Bitcoin faster? Do dictators lose power more quickly? Or do they adapt and fight back harder? Maybe Bitcoin changes everything. Or maybe it changes nothing. Because humans still hunger for control, still fear change, still fight over power. But here's what we do know. If Bitcoin existed in 1945, the idea of money would have evolved alongside the modern world. Instead of against it, we would have had 80 years to build better incentives, stronger communities, and a more transparent financial system. Or we would have had 80 years of governments trying to crush it. The truth? Bitcoin had to come later, because in 1945, the world wasn't ready. Ready to question authority, ready to lose faith in fiat, ready to demand digital self-sovereignty. Maybe that's why Satoshi waited. Not because the technology wasn't ready, but because we weren't. Still, the question lingers. What if we'd had a fair playing field from the start? How many wars would we have avoided? How many lies would we have seen through? How much freedom would we have gained? Bitcoin in 1945 would have given us a choice, a fork in the road, fiat, or freedom. We didn't take that path then, but we can take it now. Because this story isn't about the past, it's about you, right now. You are living through the real monetary revolution. You're not late, you're early. You don't need a time machine to imagine a better world. You just need conviction and a hardware wallet. So ask yourself, what if you act now, before the world wakes up? What if your children look back at this moment the way we look back at 1945? What if, this time, you choose freedom? This is the revolution, without bloodshed, without borders, without permission. If Bitcoin had existed in 1945, it would have changed the world. But maybe it still can. Subscribe, because the next chapter hasn't been written yet, and you're part of it.